Welcome to SG Talks, Startup Greece Talks. Today I'm meeting Stergios from Flavor Up. Good to meet you.
Hi. Good to meet you too. Thanks for having me.
It's such a pleasure. We've been trying to do this for a long time, but we made it and we're here today. And even though I know many things about you since we talked yesterday, I cannot wait to learn more about your journey. What is Flavor Up? Why did you do it? What's your team? What are you doing here? Many questions.
That's great. Where would you like to start from?
Who are you? What is your journey? And anything related to Greece and...
Yeah, of course. My name is Stergios, and I grew up in Greece, in Athens. I spent most of my life there until about 18, 19 years old, where I went to the US for a little bit and then back to Greece, where I started my first business in publishing. And then I moved through many different industries, a lot of difficulties on the way. And then I found myself in the UK, where I spent most of my time, about 9, 10 years, mostly in tech.
In the UK?
I worked in the UK, yes, in London.
Okay, that must have slipped my mind yesterday. 9 years in the UK. Okay.
Yes, correct. I spent also some time in other places, like in the Middle East, for a little bit, but most of the time was in the UK. I worked for various tech companies there. Most people know me for the work I did at Google, initially at the office as a full-time, and then as an independent contractor for a few years later. And after that, I found myself in Mexico City, where I've been for the past 4.5 years. And the last 2 years, I've been building Flavor Up, which is a company with headquarters in the US. And we're building an app to help people find places to eat easier. Essentially, we have only one app that we take users from discovery to payment, so they don't have to use 5 or 6 apps to do so. We can talk more about it, but that's kind of an overview of me and the business I'm building.
Thank you so much for sharing all of this and doing it so efficiently also. You explained to me about Flavor Up. You explained to me yesterday some things, but I believe later on we should talk a little bit more about the challenges that people face when they go out to have a dinner or a lunch and why they should use Flavor Up, which by the way, is a very interesting name. I really like it. I should have told you yesterday, I didn't tell you. So you told me what the startup is about. So what's the problem the company solves? Maybe we can talk about it now, and maybe we can talk about your team a little bit.
Yeah, of course.
Perfect.
So I think for the listeners or the viewers, I think it's important to see it from the perspective of someone who is in the US, because that's the kind of first market and where the business is based.
Yes.
In the US, as many know, specifically in big cities, we have many restaurants, thousands of those. In New York, for example, there are nearly 25,000 restaurants, and we have cuisines from all over the world. So there are too many options, and also it's quite expensive. So people, most of the times, they go for the experience and they want to be informed before they go. Specifically, newer generations, they start their journey from TikTok. TikTok, for those who don't know, overtook Google for
Are there
food
people
discovery in the US.
Who don't
know? I mean, maybe they don't know that TikTok, maybe they know TikTok, but not that they overtook Google for restaurant and food discovery for some segments.
Crazy.
So, yeah, I know. And I mean, it makes sense. Food is very visual. We always like to see food before we eat it, if possible. It kind of awakens our senses, so it makes sense. So the journey goes something like this. So people go on TikTok, they browse different videos of restaurants in their city, and they save foods or places. And then when they're ready to go somewhere, they go through the list they have. Then they pick some of these places, they send them to their friend. Then their friend says, "Oh, that looks great." Then they open a second app, which usually it's Yelp or Google Maps, to see if these restaurants are open at the time they want to go out, if they are nearby. And then after they done that, then they go to Resi or OpenTable, which are apps to make a reservation, which is very common, making a reservation, specifically in big cities. And then they make the reservation, and then they go to the restaurant finally with their friends. Then they open whatever web service the restaurant uses to see the menu. And then they order to the waiter, the food comes, and then they pay. And for the payment, again, there are many different options. Sometimes they scan a QR code and they go through a web checkout. Sometimes they use the terminal that the waiter will give them. And it's also normal for just one person to pay the whole bill. And then they use an app that is called Venmo, which is common for peer-to-peer payments. So people can just send to this one person, whatever it is to pay them. It's also worth mentioning that something that's more cultural, it's that usually bills in the US, they're split evenly. So sometimes you end up overpaying something or underpaying. The idea is that it's easier, and also it will normalize over time, although studies have shown that it doesn't necessarily normalize, because there are people, for example, that drink alcohol and other people that they don't. So sometimes some people, they always overpay. So our app essentially takes all this journey and makes it just a simple experience. So we have a visual interface with short form videos that people can see the atmosphere of the restaurant in like 6-second videos. The interface looks pretty much like TikTok in that sense, in the navigation. So it's very intuitive. And all the restaurants you see, they're in your vicinity. So you don't have to go and check in another app if they're close or not. And also they're personalized to your food preferences. So for example, if you don't eat meat, you're not going to see an Argentinian steakhouse on your feed. So it makes it also much easier to find something. And talking about that, you can also add your friends to the search. So then it takes into account, exactly. So it takes into account the preferences of all your friends. So then it tells you, okay, around you, there are like 17 restaurants that will satisfy all of you.
All of you.
So you don't have to send links. Exactly. You don't have to send links. So your friends, then they have to go through them. And one says, "Oh, I love that." The other one says, "Oh, it doesn't have something for me," etc., etc.
It's just saving so much time and so much effort. And it's what I see in this, and what I also have seen in other tech apps that I liked a lot, is that they introduce a sense of gamification of the customer journey, which I absolutely love. And I believe it's the next way that the customer experience is going to be approached. It's going to be gamified, because that's what people want, and that's what people should have in the end of the day. Tech should not be something hard to work around. So I think it's pretty understandable. You're actually an all-in-one app for booking a restaurant.
Yeah, I mean, it's important to, of course, it's important to mention that in the US, there are 136 million people on a special diet. That ranges for people that they're just vegetarian or vegan, to people who have diabetes or some other illnesses or disease that prevents them from eating everything. And these people usually struggle to find new places, and they just stick to one or two. So essentially, we help all these people, find something to eat, or when they are with their friends, we just make it easier. And an example I would like to give here is that the way I see it is like, imagine going to a store to buy sneakers, and you point to some shoes and you say to the person who helps you there, "Hey, I would like to try this Nike." And then they bring you, let's say, 10 boxes of the same shoe. but in different sizes. And then you, the customer, you have to go through all the boxes and say, oh, this fits me, this doesn't fit me. So you can try them. I think it's the same with food. However, it happens way more often than buying shoes because, on average, in the US, people go 3.5 times out to eat. And these times they go out, they have to go through a menu and read through the descriptions and say, oh, that sounded good, but it has this ingredient I don't need.
Correct. Yeah. We're not experiencing this kind of issues in Greece, and I understand why you are focusing on the US market at the point.
Of
So,
course, of course.
how about we dive a little bit deeper on your business model? And I understand that you're currently in a situation where you are understanding how you will generate revenue. So, what's your ideas on that?
Yeah, of course. Maybe I'll go quickly through the journey of how the app works, and then kind of that ties well to the revenue model. So, from the perspective of the app, you can browse videos, you see the restaurants, you add your friends, as we said, and then you can book a table if you like, or join a wait list if the restaurant offers this option. And then when you finally make it to the restaurant, you sit on your table, and then you can order straight from the menu. So as you see the menu, you can just press on the items you want to order, and you place your order right away. There is no basket or checkout process. It's very intuitive. You just say, I want this item, and the order goes straight to the kitchen. Then it's served. And then when you're ready to go, you just leave. You don't have to ask the waiter for the bill. You don't have to go through an online checkout. Your bank account is connected to the app, and when the app notices that you leave the premises, it charges you for whatever you consumed.
So you don't even have to get into, pardon for interrupting. So you don't even have to get into this conversation of how are we paying, who is paying, are we splitting equally, or what are we doing? You avoid this awkward thing that you don't want to get involved into.
Exactly. Yeah, it makes it much easier, and also you don't have to wait for the bill. You just leave. You don't have to, if you want to leave earlier than your friends, you just leave. Also, tipping makes it easier because you can tip whatever you like without disclosing it. So there is no social pressure that if your friends spend more on tipping and you cannot afford it.
You don't need to tip more than you want.
Exactly. And then the other thing is that you don't have to manually either make the payment to your friends or wait for the payment to come or remind your friends about the payment. And it's also important mentioning that Venmo, which is a big business in the peer-to-peer payments, 48% of their volume of business comes from splitting restaurant bills. So they made half of their business essentially just for this need. And in this case, we automate that. So coming to the revenue part, so essentially we are processing payments. We have managed to get a partnership with the same processors that Venmo and Google is using, and we have a pricing that is extremely competitive in the market. So right now we are the cheapest way to process payments for restaurants. So essentially we get a cut from the payment instead of paying Visa or Square or Toast or other services that they exist in the space. Essentially you pay out, but for the bottom line of the restaurant, there is no change. If anything, it's just cheaper. On top of that, we have subscriptions, and there are different tiers, and we offer restaurants information that it wasn't possible to obtain before. For example, what we could do is if restaurants use our service to book tables, they also know the preferences of these users. This is extremely important because if I'm a restaurant and I know on Friday night I have 4 or 5 tables that they're mostly pescatarians or vegetarians, I'm not going to unfreeze a lot of meat to be able to serve my meat dishes. So I'm way more efficient, and I don't spend money on food that goes to waste.
Preparing the restaurant for the...
Exactly.
for the customers. That's
Exactly.
pretty impressive, and not only
Yeah.
the idea, but the amount of data that they're getting. It's also something that maybe is or should be charged too, because
Yeah. I mean, the
it's pretty
restaurants.
important, because they don't get to lose parts of their resources. The food.
Of course, of course. And in general, booking tables, making reservations is a big business in the software industry. In the US, on average, restaurants pay $540 a month on Open Table to be able to accept reservations.
Mm.
However, they don't have this information we can provide them. Some other tiers include other types of information. For example, let's say from a pizzeria, and then there are customers that they pass around and they check my menu, but then they go and eat pizza across the street. I can know that. I don't know who they are. It's This
Yeah,
data
but you have
are
the data.
aggregated.
You have the data.
Yes, yeah. So I can know that these people wanted pizza. They end up eating pizza. They ate at a competitor. I don't know exactly why, but you can help me like investigate. Is it my prices? Is it
Yes.
my videos? Is it
Yes.
that this other business has better reviews? And then I can like work towards that to kind of help my business improve.
So are you planning on working B2B except for B2C? It wasn't in my
I mean,
planned
essentially,
questions, but since we're here.
yeah. I mean, essentially, we have two fronts. We're a little bit like a marketplace, not a very traditional one, but we work with restaurants to integrate with their payment system. We can still serve um, restaurants without having the payments, without having a partner, because we still have their menus, we still help users find the right thing on their menu, etc. However, in order to get paid, we do need to have these restaurants, these small businesses. Sometimes they're
Mhm.
bigger or chains as customers, and then on the other hand, we have the users that it's free to use. However, we do have a tier that is premium for users too,
Mm.
and this is for users that they usually track the calories in their diet.
Mm.
Now there are some apps like Noom or MyFitnessPal in the US,
Mm.
but they have over 20 million paying users. Users pay anything between $10 and $20 a month to be able to essentially log their calories, and it's
Mm.
kind of a tracker for understanding how much they're eating every day and keeping like a budget.
Mhm.
However, it's a very manual process. So, for example, I wake up, I eat
It is.
breakfast, then I log the calories there, and then
Yeah.
towards the end of the day, when I'm for dinner, I'm like, okay, how many calories I've left? Let's
Yeah.
say 550, and then I go through menus manually to see items and then log them there to see how many calories they are,
It's
if they are
very
enough.
time consuming. Very time consuming. Okay.
Exactly. So with our app, what the user can pay a subscription, and then we offer them a few options. One is to connect with those apps if they use them already, and then they log automatically the calories
Yeah.
based on where they eat. But also we help them find places to eat based on their calorie budgets. For example, you can say, I have 550 calories left for dinner. Find places that they're good for me. And it's the same when you're going with your friends out, and some they have these calorie restrictions. You can find you restaurants that have meals that will satisfy these
Mhm.
preferences.
Mhm.
So essentially, we have two fronts there, and then there is a third one that goes into advertisement, and there are essentially ads for foods that again is more targeted, because since we know, for example, who is lactose intolerant or who doesn't eat cheese, a
You can use the
manufacturer who
data
sells cheese
to
exactly
yeah.
would would not have to advertise cheese to someone who doesn't eat it.
Mhm. So it's tailored advertisement, which is more important for the advertiser than the
And
actual.
the user as well,
Yeah, but
because they don't see relevant ads.
yeah, correct. Um, okay, thank you for sharing. So
Of course.
would you say that you have found your avatar, or are you still searching for a product market fit?
Well, we're kind of early. We're doing some tests now with the prototype, so
Hmm.
it's kind of early to say. Um, However, it needs to be seen. However, from the test, the results we have, they're extremely strong. People are extremely passionate. Usually, we tell them, the people who take part of the test, to not share things, etc. And then we always end up getting emails or text messages saying, "Hey, my friend, my wife, my partner took part in this test. I would love to know when you come to my city." So
That's great.
people,
That's great feedback.
yeah,
Great
people
feedback.
love what we do, yeah. And something that is it's hard for the listeners or viewers to imagine is the user experience. And for the people who've seen that, usually it's striking. I think we, as a team as well, we have a strong background into the user experience, and I
Mm.
think that's what sets apart a consumer app.
Um, you told me some numbers in the beginning, but I would love to have some estimations about the market size. So I understand, since you told me that there are so many restaurants and there are so many people going out for dinner, and I understand that it's a big market. I understand that it's a growing market, and I also understand that customizing the experience of a customer, especially by bringing the experience of food towards a more, let's say, visual state. I believe it's going to be exponential growth. But what are the numbers? What have you seen?
Yeah, yeah. So the majority of restaurants in the US, they have digital menus
Yeah.
specifically after the pandemic, and they accept payments. Then in the industry, in the software industry that caters restaurants, there are two different fronts that there's concentration that it's relevant to what we do. One has to do with the visual part, which is essentially seeing menus or seeing the atmosphere of the restaurant, which is worth mentioning that American Express, that has invested heavily in the restaurant industry, made the research about a year and a half ago. They put a lot of kind of industry leaders together to think how the industry is going to change in the next few years. And what was striking is that they said by 2030, they believe that virtually all menus are going to be in a visual format.
Mm.
So we're going to see mostly videos of menus rather than text. And we want to be on the forefront on that because it's a very, very new thing. However, TikTok, which is a main competitor on that space, have put together a big team in the US that they're lobbying to getting even more and more restaurants. And a lot of restaurants, they agree that it brings a lot of business to them. So that's one of the two areas in the space. The other one has to do with payments. There was an influx of companies offering QR payments. The way they work, for the people who haven't heard of them, essentially you go to the restaurant, you order either through a web service or to the waiter, and then your table and your account, essentially, not account, but let's say
Yes.
your receipt is connected to this QR code. So when you're ready to go, you don't have to wait. You scan this QR code, and then it has a checkout, and you pay, and that's it. And a lot of restaurants in Italy, they like that, and they implement it. And there were a lot of companies raising hundreds of millions of dollars to build these services. However, what we saw after talking to a lot of restaurants who implemented the service, they have a major pitfall, a major problem. So now, if you have the service, me as a waiter, I have to always look at this table and see, is the customer going to use the service? Or
Mm.
if I see them walking out, I need to run to my POS, to my system to see, did they pay or should I run after them?
Yeah.
So it creates even an extra anxiety and waste of time. With our app, because it's a closed loop, like you start the ordering from the app and you pay with the app. If the order originates from our app, then it's 100% the payment guaranteed. So they don't
Yes.
have to worry about that. And that's the two fronts that we're competing, essentially payments and visual interface.
Hmm.
However, so far there is no one that has managed to merge the two. And that's, I think, also a differentiator factor for us. because it's very hard for someone like OpenTable or Google Maps to change completely the interface and make it like TikTok. And the same for TikTok, it's kind of hard to change completely the interface to implement these
Yes.
other features.
Great. So you just talked to me a little bit about the competition, whether it's direct or indirect. And before that, I wanted to ask about some estimates around the market. So if you have any numbers to share with me with regards to the size of the market, that would be great. If you don't have it in front of you right now, great again. You can always tell me your gut instinct or whatever you have felt in the market.
Yeah, like we kind of avoid giving like big numbers that we see in a lot of like pitch decks of other startups. We're trying to focus more on what's the attainable market and what's the potential revenue
whatever
we can
whatever
generate
makes sense for you.
if things go well. Assuming that things go well and we penetrate in the market and we find product fit in the same way that we see the reflection from the tests we've done so far. I think we can manage to get to a revenue point between 800 million a year and 1 billion, more or less. There is room for more, but I think that would be a more realistic scenario, assuming
Great.
We capture the market, we process the payments, etc., etc.
Yeah, and considering the market trends in this and the fact that everyone is using their phones for everything, where do you see yourself in like the next 3 to 5 years if you have done this thinking? Because I understand that you're probably going to change many aspects of the company up until that point. But do you have any visions?
Yeah, we're hoping to be in as many restaurants as possible in the next, let's say, 4 to 5 years.
Yeah.
And the idea is to, first of all, be a business that doesn't need to go into multiple rounds again and again in order to sustain itself. So the idea is to be able to be self-sustained at least after like 5 years or so. And that's the goal.
That's makes perfect sense. And are you planning on staying in the US or expanding?
Yeah, ideally, we're going to go to some other places. There are some potential partners that they expressed interest in Canada, in the UK, and in Japan. And however, since we are so early, we cannot take upon those offers. Some of them they're around investment. Some of them they are from large chains of restaurants that they want parts of what we're building.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping when we establish ourselves in the US to be able to get these opportunities and expand in these other regions.
And I wish you the best on that. Hopefully, you're gonna get to Greece at some point.
Thank you. Yeah, hopefully.
Hopefully, that would be very nice. I'm gonna skip the financials part for this point of for this state of the startup, and I'm gonna ask you again when we have this chat again in some months. And I would love to ask you about funding because I understand that you were bootstrapping up until a point, and you told me something about funding the other day. Are you planning on raising? And if yes, when are you opening a round?
Of course, yeah. I have bootstrapped mostly this company. We have only received a 100K check from AngelList Venture, and that's the only investment we got. It wasn't a round. It was more like they found us because we had like a high hiring velocity on AngelList.
Yes.
Currently well found, as it's called, and they invested a small amount. And now we are releasing part of our product, our recommendation engine, in about a month or two. And right after that, depending on how that goes and the adoption, then we're going to go to a proper seed round. And that's the plan.
That sounds great to me. Is there anything that you would like to share that has to do with the investors, VCs or investors that is important for them? Would you like to share anything?
I mean, I guess most investors, so far at least, they are interested in the products and like my experience. I built many products before, and that's what kind of triggers interest. However, I guess most people they want to see what's next, so that's why
Yes.
I'm hoping in the next 2 months to be able to have a product that is live and we have like more metrics to share. We
Yes.
have a good run rate for now, so we can sustain the business for
Perfect.
like several months. However, I'm betting around March or April we're going to go aggressive into fundraising.
Great. Okay, so I'm going to see you then again. As we wrap it up, I would love to know more about your team. I know that you will need some people in the future, so I would love to know what kind of talent you're searching for and how you're searching for it.
Yeah, of course. So a lot of people come obviously from recommendations, but we always publish roles, even if they're like full-time or contract. So far, I've been utilizing mostly contractors. We are only 4 full-time employees, and then we have several contractors depending on the month and the needs.
Yeah.
So we publish things usually on LinkedIn and on Wellfound. And then there are a lot of networks on Slack and on WhatsApp throughout other founders that I personally know that we exchange details of potential candidates or people that we worked in the past, etc. And in general, we are looking at people in the data science field.
Yes.
And also some full stack developers. So if someone is listening and knows someone that might be interested, they can go on flavourup.co/careers.
We're going to have links under the
That's
video.
great.
So everyone can tap and connect to us, either me or Stergios or anyone from Flavor Up. We would love to hear from you guys.
Yeah, of course, of course. And I think we're looking for people that they're above average on their field, and they're also kind people. I think that's the kind of 2 things that we're looking to find. So, we can have like also the culture we want in the company.
Which is extremely important. Okay, so this is an open call for everyone out there listening to us. We are waiting for people to get in touch and maybe have things to share with regards to Flavor Up. Maybe you have people you want to recommend or yourself. We're gonna have some links, as I said, underneath the video, and you can always check them out, and contact us. So would you like us to wrap it up? We have around 5 minutes. What else would you like to share with me? Is there something important that our audience should know?
I don't know if that's important or not, but we discussed it in the conversation we had before this interview, this call. Something I think it's important maybe for some people to know is my background that is a little bit probably unconventional
for sure.
For people who don't know, I never studied something. I didn't even finish high school, and it wasn't by choice. It was more about different hardships that they came along, and entrepreneurship became more as a need rather than as a desire.
I have to do my own thing because no one would employ me. Kind of thing.
Exactly. That was exactly it. So it was hard the first few years. However, having experience in different fields, that became an asset. That was exactly the reason I was hired by Google, because they were looking for someone with a more diverse experience into building things on their own. And so if we can leave the audience with the message is that I wouldn't say that you can always make it, because the reality is that
would not be true.
A lot of luck is involved. However, it is possible to learn a lot of things on your own, and kind of find or make your own path with a little bit of luck?
This is probably the most important part of this talk, if I may, because Flavor Up is one of your ventures. It will probably go really, really well, and in the future, you will most likely want to do something else. The thing is that you have gathered and gained um, a diverse experience from many fields. And this not only makes you a good entrepreneur, but a good problem solver and a good teammate, because you can always be there when things are hard for other people, because you can touch many different sectors of the same industry. And this, I believe, is a great, great advantage for a team leader, for a startupper, for a person in general. So, wrapping it up, I would also like to thank everyone for being on this series of episodes, because I believe it's going to be the last of this season. And I would like to urge all of you out there, get connected in Slack or WhatsApp, just like I'm going to do right after we wrap it up, with Stergios or anyone in this field, this industry, because that's the only way that you can get a step forward, by networking, being honest, and being valuable. So thank you so much for sharing all these things with me. I absolutely love the venture, and I'm supporting you guys, and hope to talk soon when you are on a completely next level.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me. I appreciate the time and the questions, the conversation. And for everyone that's listening, thank you for being here, and feel free to connect with me online.
That's great. Have a wonderful day, because it's afternoon for me.
It's day here.
This guy's in Mexico, so have a wonderful day, and we're gonna talk soon.
Thank you.
Peace. Bye.